My name is Manfred Helber. I'm Microsoft Most Valuable Professional in the category Cloud and Data Center. If you also watched the previous videos modules, you already have learned that Azure Stack HCI is natively integrated into Azure. So we are running the Azure Stack HCI cluster on premises. It's an on-premises cluster. We can start with minimum 2 nodes, can scale up to 16 nodes. In our live demos in these different video modules, we have seen clusters with 2 nodes, with 3 nodes, with 4 nodes. And because this cluster is natively registered to Azure, we have also functionalities in the Azure Portal. In many live demos, we initiated administrative actions via the Windows Admin Center. And we will start the next live demo also via Windows Admin Center, but we will focus in this session on the additional functionalities we have in the Azure Portal. The unique thing at this Azure integration of Azure Stack HCI is that services on an Azure Stack HCI cluster see Azure as a platform, so it behaves like Azure. And one of the reasons why you have to connect your Azure Stack HCI to Azure is the subscription-based billing. You don't have any upfront costs for your Azure Stack HCI solution. For sure, you have to buy the hardware, or maybe you have partners where you can rent this hardware. But you have to register the system to Azure to unlock the full capabilities. And then you have a core-based subscription model. So Azure Stack HCI, the price is per core per month. It's $10 per core per month. And the costs start after a 60-day evaluation period. So you can use Azure Stack HCI for 60 days without costs. After 60 days, you have this cost per core per month. It's not required that your Azure Stack HCI is always connected. So if the connection is lost or you have some issues with the connectivity, your workload remains up and running, your VMs stay online, everything works. You have to connect to your Azure subscription minimum once every 30 days. If we have features like the Azure benefits we have seen in a previous module, there we always have a date how long we can use these benefits, and it's usually 30 days from now. And if you have a connectivity to Azure, this end date of the Azure benefits will always be moved to the future so that you have always this 30 days. So Azure Stack HCI cannot be used in completely disconnected scenarios, but you must not be afraid if you have sometimes a disconnectivity or in your internet connection. So in this live demo now, we will see what additional functionalities we have in the Azure Portal when we connect Azure Stack HCI to Azure, because it's not only about the subscription-based billing, it also provides a lot of additional features to us. Let's review our Azure Stack HCI cluster 30. It's a 3-node cluster we are running here. We have seen several demos on this cluster. And let's check a few things on this cluster before we go to the Azure Portal to see the correct relation between these two portals. Here in the Windows Admin Center, we can see, okay, we have 3 machines. We have 3 nodes in this cluster. We have virtual machines on this cluster. They are up and running. The machines, let's see the list of the machines here. Some machines are running, some machines are stopped. We have volumes, we have our drives. We installed updates here. Azure Monitor is actually not configured. It's disconnected. So we will check this also on one node of this cluster. When we go to the settings The Azure benefits are actually not configured on this machine. We could configure this Azure benefits, but they are actually not configured. This is the situation here. When I'm opening a new tab of the Windows Admin Center, when I connect in this tab to one of the nodes of this cluster and re-authenticate there, then I will see on this Azure Stack HCI node, we are running Azure Stack HCI operating system. Yes, we can see it's running Microsoft of Azure Stack HCI as an operating system. When I look to the installed apps, then I will see there's the Azure Connected Machine Agent. This Azure Connected Machine Agent was installed when we connected this cluster to Microsoft Azure in Module 3 of this training course, registering Azure Stack HCI with Microsoft Azure in configuring Azure Arc. In the live demo there, we used a different cluster, but it is exactly the same steps for a 3, 4, 5 node cluster. So how did we do it? We went to the Azure Portal in the dashboard, and there we could see Azure connection. This time it was disconnected, and we clicked on Register with Azure, and the registration started. And with registering in Azure, we have here in the settings, we can check the Azure Stack HCI registration status. We have the registration in Azure. We have the Azure Arc integration status, and it's connected here. With Azure Arc, this agent here was installed on every node. So if the machine is Azure Arc enabled, we will have this Azure Connected Machine Agent in Azure. On the node. So now the question is, what's the advantage to have this? What can we do with this agent? I'm often asked about exactly this. Let's view the Azure resource. This is the focus of this module, to see what we now can see in Azure. This is our cluster with 3 nodes. You can see, oh, they have different memory configurations. 2 servers with 16 gigabytes, 1 with 8 gigabytes. This is correct. In another lab module, in another course, we upgraded the first 2 machines to 16 gigabytes. The third one was not upgraded. Azure connection, last connection was 9 hours ago. We have the Azure Stack HCI operating system. It's in West Europe here, the overview. Let's check the activity log. In the activity log, I can see the information about activities on the machine. I can select the directory activities, or I can select the activities themselves. I can download the activities. Here I can read, looking for log analytics. In log analytics, you can search for performance diagnostics and so on. So here I will see information about the activity log of this system, where we actually don't have any actual reviewable items. Via access control, we can configure, we can grant access to this resource. Here we are speaking about the Azure resource. We can add tags to this resource, to this Azure Stack HCI cluster. This is helpful if you have several of them and you want to have additional search criteria. Diagnose and resolve problems. Here we can see common problems on our, not on our cluster. We can see common problems with clusters with Azure Stack HCI. And here we can see no health-related issues found. So everything is fine here. 36 changes to this resource in the last 72 hours. So there were many live demos, many videos. So I could view the change details. In clicking on View Change Details, then I will see some information about changes. You have information about timestamp. Here I can see the last billing timestamp. So when I select, for example, this last billing timestamp, I will receive detailed information. This is not a problem here. This is an information that the billing timestamp was updated. Then let's see what also and trial days remaining. Here I can see how many days are remaining. For Azure Stack HCI, I mentioned this, you have 60 days for testing it where you don't have costs. On this cluster, we have remaining 59 days. This will be the next new value, and so on. So you see what happened here, which actions were there, and we can search for typical issues and problems. A great thing are the extensions. Actually, only one extension is available, but let's check this node again. This node is visible in the Azure Portal because of the Azure Stack HCI registration and because of the installation of this Azure Connected Machine Agent. This was installed automatically. You can see in installed apps, this machine has not any additional apps installed. Now let's go to the Azure Portal and let's add here an extension. I want to add the Log Analytics agent to Azure Arc. We could activate the logging on the nodes via Azure Monitor and Log Analytics, but I will use the Azure Portal. Use Log Analytics. I will choose for an Azure Stack HCI Log 30. It's a workspace. I could also create a new workspace. Now let's click on Add. The extension is installed. And here I can see the first step, some notification or error, not found. Try refreshing again. Okay, let's refresh this. Now here can I see creating on 3 nodes. My cluster contains 3 nodes, 31, 32, 33. We are actually looking on the node 33 here in Windows Admin Center. Actually, no additional app here. Okay, let's see what happens in Windows in Azure Portal. It's still creating the monitoring agent. It's still creating. Should give this action a few minutes to finish. Still creating the monitoring actions here, the monitoring agent items. Let's check the target machine again. So actually still only the Azure Connected Machine Agent. Let's refresh again. So it's still creating here. Let's have a look at the installed apps. And here you can see it. Here it's there, the Microsoft Monitoring Agent, Microsoft Corporation. I didn't go to the node and install any agents. I didn't configure it on each node. I just selected this app in the Azure Portal, and because my nodes are Azure Arc enabled via this Azure Connected Machine Agent, I could publish this additional agent, and for sure this agent is also on node 2 and 3. And after a while, now this is succeeded. Now these machines are connected, this is succeeded, and they are connected with this extension Log Analytics to Microsoft Azure, where we have now more insights, not right now because actually this information is transferred from the client to the cloud, but in the future we have access to this information in the Log Analytics. So the great thing is, we'll say, okay, this is one agent here, but let's imagine we have technologies we have seen in this course, or we will see in the next modules, Azure Backup, we will see Azure Site Recovery, we will see Azure Virtual Desktop Services, and so on. All these things can be deployed in the future via an extension. Microsoft only has to provide this extension to us. And Azure Arc, this technology is relatively new. The Azure Stack HCI in combination with Azure Arc is very new because we have the first Azure Stack HCI version was 20H2. The second one is now 21H2, and with 21H2, this automatic enablement with Azure Arc started. So Azure Stack HCI 20H2 was not Azure Arc enabled by default. So 21H2 is the first Azure Stack HCI version and the first on-premises in the operating system that is Azure Arc enabled by default. It's not completely correct because the Azure Arc enablement occurs when I register this cluster in Azure, but the registration in Azure is mandatory. So you can be sure that these systems will be Azure Arc enabled. And I think you can see here, this is really great. Let's imagine you have not one of these 3-node clusters, but you have 10 8-node clusters, so 80 hosts, and you can configure Azure log analytics via this way, and maybe I don't have exact insights about the roadmap, but maybe in the future also Azure backup, Azure site recovery, and other services. So let's go to the settings configuration. Here we can see the Windows Server subscription add-on, and here I can see an interesting thing. This cluster says, oh, to use this feature, install the latest Azure Stack HCI updates and refresh this page. Remember the previous module, module 4, review Azure Stack HCI configuration options and Azure benefits. I showed you how to install updates on a cluster, because on exactly this cluster, we had the situation that the Azure benefits were not available. Now they are available because I installed updates on this node, but it seems Azure actually does not know about this change on the on-premises cluster. What I can do, I can go back to the Azure Stack HCI registration and click here the sync button. Let's sync the cluster. Here I can see, okay, it was successfully synced, this cluster. So the sync should be finished. Now I can refresh my overview here. I can see Azure connection connected a few seconds ago. When we started with this live demo, it was something like 6 hours ago. So now let's go to the configuration. Now the configuration is available. Here we can see, okay, Windows Server subscription add-on. Subscribe to Windows Server guest licensing through Azure. You'll be charged for total number of physical cores in your cluster. Learn more. The learn more, we have seen that the pricing is already public here. So it's something like $23 per physical core per month to get unlimited usage rights via the subscription. I could check the purchase here then in the Azure Portal. Alternatively, it would be possible, like we have seen it in the module before, to do this in the Windows Admin Center. I could go to activate Windows Server VMs and then check for the subscription. Let's see this again here, setup, and here purchase Windows Server subscription. And if I do this, I will be able to purchase the Windows Server subscription license via Azure. Alternatively, it's possible to do this via the Azure Portal. Service health data is available here, service health data, and we can see the setting level is basic. In the Azure Portal, we have here the information, setting level is basic, and we can change this here. Azure benefits are actually not turned on this cluster. It's not enabled. To use workloads and services that are exclusively available on Azure, turn on Azure Platform Attestation at no additional fee. So actually, it's not possible to do this from the Azure Portal, but it would be possible to do this via Azure Arc. So here I have to go to the Windows Admin Center. I can choose the Azure benefits here, and I can turn on the Azure benefits for this cluster. Not for all the VMs. Let's turn on. And the great thing is to see, yes, we are at the beginning of the journey of many possibilities we have, but I think you can see more and more services will be consumable via the Azure Portal. And I think you have seen this when I added this extension about the log analytics, how fast this is. And so this is really great if you not only configure a 2-node cluster, but if you configure many departments with many clusters or a huge data center, because in the Azure Portal you have all these mechanisms for consolidation and so on. So let's see Azure benefits. They are still enabling. Then the situation is here, if I don't push the action from the Azure Portal, I have to ensure that the Azure Portal receive this information. So it might be necessary that after enabling the Azure benefits on this node, you have to go to the Azure Stack HCI registration and resync, because regarding the Azure Stack HCI, it's fine to have a synchronization every 30 days. The Azure Stack HCI cluster will try it in default time frames to connect to Azure, but not every second, not every minute. So, and now we have to wait a few additional minutes for activating this. I can try to refresh here if Azure Portal has already realized something about it. And when this is finished, we can resync. Turn on Azure benefits. Here I can already see the success message here. The benefits are configured on my cluster. Here we can see the result. The cluster is enabled for Azure benefits. The Azure benefits are active on each node. And the VMs, actually Azure benefits is turned off for all the VMs, but it's an easy step to activate, for example, for this virtual machine, the Azure benefits. I have just to turn it on, and then I have the Azure benefits like Data Center Azure Edition, like extended security updates for this virtual machine. Also, this machine can now consume the pay-as-you-go license if I have activated this in the activation window server section. When I go to the Azure Portal and refresh here, then I will see, oh, it's here as an enabled. I mentioned maybe we have to resync. In this situation, the resync already happened in the background. So great opportunities we already have here, and great opportunities I expect here in the near future. So we can configure logs for the resources here, for the resource group, for the subscription. Then we have a new section here. We can see resources preview. This is brand new. And with this resources preview, when I click on virtual machines, I could deploy virtual machines on my on-premises Azure Stack HCI cluster via an Azure Resource Bridge. You can imagine this agent we deployed has a size of 200 megabytes. So this was a small download. It was pushed to the nodes via the Azure Connected Machine agent. If we would deploy a virtual machine with a 5 gigabyte image, in some internet connectivity connections, maybe this would take hours till the machine would be deployed. And this is the reason why this deployment of virtual machines via the Azure Portal will not deploy the virtual machine directly on the hosts. It will trigger the Azure Resource Bridge that has to be set up on premises. And this Azure Resource Bridge, it's something like an cache catalog. We have the templates we want to work with in this Azure Resource Bridge. And when we deploy a virtual machine via the Azure Portal on our on-premises Azure Stack HCI, not the whole image of the virtual machine is transferred from Azure to on-premises because it's already in the resource bridge. This resource bridge has to be pre-populated or is populated with the images we are using. Here we also have access to virtual networks. If the resource bridge is configured, we have access to the disk drives and to VM images. So I'm really looking forward to these topics here. And we will add a training module to this hybrid administrator training when these features are ready. So they are absolutely new here in the list. And when they are in a later preview state and usable in your production environment, we will provide a dedicated video about the resource bridge because it's really great what's possible with this. Monitoring the logs we have here. Here we have additional information about log analytics, and remember, we have deployed the log analytics agent to our machines. Also in preview, the tasks preview. Here we could add automation tasks where the Azure Portal realizes a specific status on the Azure Stack HCI nodes, and then starts an automation task based on a schedule or based on a workflow we have defined before. Very, very important part is the support and troubleshoot. Because for Azure Stack HCI, you can receive and subscribe to Azure support for your solution. So because Azure Stack HCI is Azure, you can use Azure support and it's covered by Azure support. It's not included in the $10 per core per month, but the support plans start with $29. So it's not really costs when you are thinking about a cluster. There are different support plans available. Details are available at azure.microsoft.com, your language/support/plans. The basic support is always included for all Azure customers. The developer support starts with $29 per month. It's for trial and non-production environment. So you should start with the standard support. The standard support is $100 per month, not per cluster, not per node, per customer. So I decide to have standard support in my Azure environment. Now I have support for production workload environments. I have support for billing topics. I have access to self-service resources. I have the ability to submit as many support tickets as I need. I have Azure Advisor access. I have the Azure Health status and notifications included. I have third-party support with interoperability, configuration, and so on. I have 24/7 access to technical support by email or phone. This is important, 24/7 access to the support. And then I think the most important thing for you is the reaction time. If we have an impact with minimal business impact, so severity C, then I will receive a reaction within 8 business hours. So my cluster is up and running, everything is fine there, but something does not work as expected. So maybe I have the situation that I have some timeouts in Windows Admin Center when I'm accessing the Azure Stack HCI cluster, but my complete workload is running. Everything is there. I have not really a business impact, but I don't feel good because of these timeouts. I can contact support, the Azure support, if I have this support plan, and they will react within 8 hours because of this severity C. Moderate business impact is severity B within 4 hours. So the reply will be within 4 hours, or the reaction will be within 4 hours. Let's imagine you have a cluster, the workloads are running, Azure Stack HCI works, but you want to create new virtual machines and you need them, but they are not business critical. So it's okay when the virtual machine is there tomorrow, but it would be a problem if you never will be able to create this virtual machine. It's a moderate business impact. Critical business impact is you try to install updates on your cluster, like we did it in the review Azure Stack HCI configuration module. And after applying these updates and restarting the servers, it's done automatically by the automated update service, you lose access to your volumes or something like this. Total unexpected situation, and your cluster is not available, your cluster is down. Then it's business critical. Your machines are not running anymore. Your domain controller does not start or things like this. These are all situations where you usually will not see, because usually these things work absolutely great. But maybe you have a business critical situation, then the support is there for you, and the reaction will be within 1 hour in business critical cases. The professional direct support is $1,000 per month. So it's 10 times the support, the cost from the standard support. Here we have the same feature set, but the reaction time is different. With minimal business impact, we have a reaction within 4 business hours. So if you say, okay, if something is not critical, but it does not work as expected, I don't want to wait 8 hours, because maybe this is for me in the next business day. I want to have it within 4 hours. The moderate business impact is in 2 hours and not 4 hours. The critical is with both in 1 hour. 1 hour is a very, very good reaction time. Additionally, we have for architecture support, direct delivery managers that support me. We can access the ticket portal via an API. We have operations support for advisory consultants that support the customer directly. We have training resources, and the list includes some additional features here at the end that are not in the screenshot because this page was already full. So I would recommend you absolutely to always have the standard support in your subscription, because for $100, this is the best support you can receive for your Azure Stack HCI cluster. And additionally, you have the support from your OEM, from your system integrator, and so on. So this is an additional support plan, additionally to everything you have from your partners you are working with, but with $100 for the subscription. So if you have 10 clusters, it's $100. If you have 100 clusters, it's $100. So it's $100 per month per environment. The $1,000 you have to think about, the main thing is, in my opinion, the reaction time and this additional operation support things. And this visually depends on your business requirements and on your company size. So let's have a look on how this works in the Azure Portal. If we have a support request, we can select the cluster, click on the support request here. We already can see it's an issue type technical. I have my subscription. I have my service type. It's pre-selected with Azure Stack HCI, my resource, so on. Then I can go to next. And I forgot to describe the summary and the problem type. So I could say, okay, I have an issue with deployment, with alerts, maybe with hardware. Maybe I have a problem with a hardware issue, alerts, health, deployment, monitoring, and hardware. And maybe my issue is I have situation that the node is offline. Yeah, and a briefly description: node is unexpected offline. So now I can go to next. I will see recommended solutions. Yeah, I can see, okay, set up Azure Stack HCI stretched. No, I don't have a solution here. Then I will go to next. I have additional details. My Azure Stack HCI hardware partner. So I can select my hardware partner. And you see all the hardware partners with certified systems. I could choose here for the primeLine solutions, the OS version 21H2, the build number, the region name, when did it start, the description is um, maybe after power interruption and so on. I can describe what happened here. And then next, preview and create. And then this ticket is created and the Azure support will get in touch with me. I will not create this ticket because this will have an impact in the support team. So I will not create this ticket here. Let's have a view back to the overview of this cluster. Here I can see I have the nodes, and for sure I can also click on the single nodes here. For example, see, okay, what's here on the Azure Stack HCI 31, and now I'm on the server level. The advisor tells me one of 3 machines should have a vulnerability assessment solution. So something can be optimized here. On the server level, I can see I have the update management, the logs, the monitoring insights, the policies, change tracking and inventory, and the security. Here, continuously monitor for potential security vulnerabilities and recommendations. When I click on security, I can see, okay, here I have 3 recommendations for this server, no security alerts. And in the recommendations, I can see, okay, the machine should have a vulnerability solution assessment. When I click on this, I can see the remediation steps are, I can use a quick fix logic. I can manually remediate this. Here I can see the deploy a vulnerability assessment solution in unhealthy resource and so on. I have the detailed description about how to fix this here. Freshness interval within 24 hours. So this is a really, really great view here to get detailed insights about this machine. Microsoft Defender for servers is on. This is my Microsoft Defender for servers functionality I have here. I can visit the Microsoft Defender for Cloud to manage security across your virtual network, apps, and more. You can check this in a few seconds. We have additional recommendations for Defender for Cloud. For the server, we also have the extensions we can use here, but we already used the extension, the monitoring agent here. So this extension was already used for Azure Stack HCI. On the server level, we have additional extensions like SQL Server extension. It's not relevant for Azure Stack HCI. We have the custom script extension, OpenSSH extension. So on the server level, we have additional extensions available. So you can see you can also switch to the server level here with additional abilities. Let's click on the Microsoft Defender for Cloud tab here to switch to the Microsoft Defender for Cloud. And here we can see an overview of our complete infrastructure with all the resources, all the results. We can see here the secure score. This here is an demo lab environment where are many machines that are not hardened because they are removed in a few hours again. And so you can check here for your security alerts, your active recommendations, and so on. So this integration into the Azure Arc architecture here is a really great opportunity for the future. And when we search for Azure Arc here in the portal, Azure Arc, then I will see in Azure Arc, I have different resources. We are focused on Azure Stack HCI. And here we can see I have several Azure Stack HCI clusters. We had the eyes on this Azure Stack HCI cluster 30 here. This was the cluster where we were working in the Azure Arc Portal. But now let's imagine I have this 10 or 12 clusters here. And via Azure Arc, I could, for example, activate log analytics of all of these clusters, or in the future backup or things like this, or configure the resource bridges here from the central point. So a really, really great opportunity. Now from this view, I can again navigate to my cluster here. And now I have the view we had before with our extensions, with our details about the cluster, and for sure the nodes in there. But I assume this is the wrong one. Sorry, I pointed to the wrong cluster. This one is the cluster we had the eyes on. This is the 3-node cluster, because you can see I have a D114 cluster 30 and a D102 cluster 30. This here is the cluster we worked on. And here you can see the 3 nodes and the rest of the information we have already reviewed here. So thank you for your time watching this module about Azure Stack HCI in Azure Portal. And I can only recommend you to review this on a regular basis, because we will see more and more features in the Azure Portal for Azure Stack HCI.